I chose to do my recovery plan on the gray wolf, and my reason for this is I thought it was interesting that it was an endangered predator. And I think when people think about endangered, they don't always consider predators. But the reason why this is endangered is because early Americans had what we call now predator bias, where they would see that the wolf would kill other organisms, see that as bad, and they wouldn't focus on the ecological impact of these kills because they didn't really know that at the time. But I think in spite of this happening, I think that now that we understand the gray wolf better, understand the impacts of their actions, that recovery is now possible. Some facts about the gray wolves: they typically mate from January to March with a 63-day gestation period. And they used to have a very large range and lived in all parts of the northern hemisphere except the tropical forest. But since their demise, they only live in parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, Montana, Oregon, and Wyoming. And with their diet, they are carnivores. They typically consume animals larger than themselves, such as deer, moose, caribou, elk, bison, and musk oxen. In 1750, the gray wolf population was estimated to be at 188,000, but this number lowered when the Americans came in and settled because they eliminated the gray wolf's prey, and then the wolves would feed on other things, and as a response to this, people would practice predator control, and this led to them being almost completely eliminated in the 1930s. But in 1978, they were listed as endangered in all of the contiguous states. And in 1994, they were actually able to be reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park and to central Idaho. And in 2003, they were separated into 3 sections, 2 of which were listed as threatened instead of endangered. And in 2011, another section of gray wolves was made and delisted. And today, the population of gray wolves is now back to 6,000. The gray wolf laws vary in each state because they have different statuses in different states. And in the states where they were never endangered in the first place, they're not protected by the law. And in states where they were once endangered and now delisted, they're protected by each state. And in the states where they still remain endangered, it is illegal to take the wolves. And taking means to kill the wolves, harass them, or harm them, or attempt to do so. And the only exception to this law is when a wolf is threatening human life, and it is also illegal to hunt these wolves in Yellowstone National Park. As far as legal proceedings go for this species, the federal government has wanted to delist the wolves so that they don't have to fund their protection anymore. And when this happens, organizations will sue the government to prevent this from happening. And an example of this is the Center for Biological Diversity, who has sued the government to prevent the wolves from being delisted in the Midwestern United States and also preventing Minnesota from having a regulated hunting season. Harvest strategies for this species are currently being developed in the states that they've been delisted in, and an example of this is Idaho. And researchers in Idaho have found that the gray wolves have weak density-dependent reproduction and additive mortality. So that means for now that they should stick to conservative hunting models till the population gets higher, and so that way the wolves aren't relisted after being delisted. As far as management goes for this species, an approach based on hunting seems to be the best. And one of the ways to do that is through hunting regulations and developing conservative regulations as soon as they're delisted so they're not relisted. And another way is to enforce the laws against poaching, because a study done in Wisconsin shows that that's a big problem for the wolves. And it showed that 39 to 45% of the deaths in the wolves that they studied was due to poaching. And that shouldn't be any percent because poaching is illegal. As far as future projections go for this species, one of these future projections is to have a decent population size that can be sustained even if it's hunted. And that way, tax from the hunting equipment can generate money towards the gray wolf's management and the management of other species, so they can be economically beneficial. And in addition to this, the gray wolf is a keystone species, which means they control the population of all of their prey. And this allows species lower down in the food chain to flourish. And they never eliminate the population of their prey because they have such a wide range of prey. And an example of them being a keystone species is the gray wolves controlling the population of the coyotes, which allows there to be more snowshoe hares, which is food for the Canadian lynx that has been threatened. So by controlling the coyote population, the gray wolves allow the lynx to flourish. And so in conclusion to all of this, recovery is definitely possible for the gray wolves. And once they are recovered, they have a bright future to be very beneficial for the economy and for other species as well. Thank you for listening.